What's up, guys? This is Hatsmania. I'm coming to you with a brand new episode of Deck Building 101. This is the series where I teach you guys some bits and tricks about how to get into the competitive game. And this week I am talking about the side deck and how or why it's useful, how it can be useful and play to your advantage, and depending on the scenario, such as testing versus actually playing in a tournament, how you should be using the side deck. Right now we're approaching, like, we're right in the middle of a format, or at least in the beginnings of a new one, in my opinion, just because we just had nationals, and we're just starting up again with new archetypes. Cosmos Gradles are coming out next month, which may or may not be top tier, who knows, but the fact that it can snatch steal anything is pretty powerful by itself. We're seeing a lot of different archetypes emerge. Infernoids are coming out of their, are finally making a stand, as you guys saw in Dallas. But anyway, let's just get right to the episode. I'm going to start things off with, not necessarily cards you should have in the side deck, but why you should put certain cards in your side deck. Your side deck should be in response to what the meta is at that given time, and what is the best way to defeat the meta so it doesn't hurt you. So I'm going to just give some examples as to what cards you are typically in a side deck. Retaliating Sea is a good example. Artifact Lancia, Chaos Trap Hole, Light Imprisoning Mirror, and Shadow Imprisoning Mirror. MST, that's actually a pretty popular one. If there's an MST in the side deck, typically you have two in your main deck and then one on the side, just because you sometimes need that third. Defusion has been pretty popular this past year. Ritual Beasts, and more notably Heroes, and of course Shadal's. This card was cited in quite a bit against those decks, and it allowed you to get around, like, for example, Construct's effect of adding a spell or trap card back to the hand. So Defusion was a popular card this past year. Mind Drain, this card is becoming more and more popular. So if you don't know what this does, it's activated by paying 1,000 life points, and effects of monsters in the hand cannot be activated. This is becoming more and more useful simply because it shuts down two of the big, the big five in the meta. Nekroz, Burning Abyss. Burning Abyss wouldn't be able to special summon themselves, and Nekroz cannot activate their monster effects in hand. This also shuts down a lot of cards that are being played right now, such as Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, which is really, really popular in Cosmos. This completely shuts down side frames right now, just because all of their effects happen in hand. The one thing you have to be aware of is that you would have to activate this during your opponent's turn, and while they have monsters in particular, it would be during when they have Wind Up Rabbit. And then we also have Mistake, which shuts down any deck that searches a lot. It's very useful. This is used a lot by Yang Zings, for example. And then Mistaken Arrest, which is kind of like the quick place counterpart for decks that do search but don't want their opponent to search. So these are just varied examples. They're very, very general, in case you didn't notice. These cards are more, not necessarily specific, but they have general effects that don't really target a specific archetype, but they're more of like a general type of they cover a broad range of defense within the Yu-Gi-Oh game, and that includes cards like Imperial Iron Wall. Floodgates that are at 3 are typically what you will see in a side deck, if not in the main deck. Retaliating Sea is becoming more popular, mainly because it is a walking Cosmos, walking Macrocosmos, or D-Fissure, whichever one you want to look at. If you don't know what this card does, is that it special summons yourself when your opponent activates a spell card that includes the effect of special summoning monster, and then all cards into the graveyard are banished. This is great against decks like Psychic decks, because of E-Telly, or the obvious one, of course, being Nekroz or Shadal's. This card wrecks Shadal's and Nekroz just because they don't want their cards in graveyard to be banished. So, yeah. Lancia, on the other end of the spectrum, prevents banishment. So this guy is being used instead of Imperial Iron Wall in some cases. just because it only lasts a turn. Again, there's a little bit of a difference between like effects that activate during the one turn, and of course I'm a little over, like I'm under stretching, if that's a word, that a little bit. It's more, Lancia is more along the lines of like, I don't want you to play Yu-Gi-Oh, but I want to be able to play Yu-Gi-Oh on my turn. The whole point of the side deck is to pick cards intelligently that focus on weakening your opponent but improving your game state, while also not giving your opponent any advantage whatsoever, and at the same time not hurting your game at all. So, for example, in my Light Mage deck, I run Lancia instead of Imperial Iron Wall. The reason why I do that is because Lancia I can activate during my opponent's turn, and only my opponent's turn, so it doesn't hurt me whatsoever. I do like to banish in Light Mage. There's Jet Synchron, and then there's also Damage Juggler, who banish themselves, and all the spell and trap cards that banish themselves from grave, so I can get their effects. Those effects activate on my turn. I don't want Imperial Iron Wall to affect me in a way that I cannot play to the best of my deck's ability. So Lancia is the best way for me to do that, because that allows me to stop my opponent from banishing, but at the same time doesn't hurt me when my turn comes around again. The reason why I talked about these three cards, these are actually pretty linked. Typically, if you're playing Chaos Trap Hole, you are not playing Light or Shadow Imprisoning Mirror. If you're playing either one of the mirrors, you're not playing Chaos Trap Hole. Now, the reason why is because they serve different purposes. Again, it's the part where, like, does it hurt me on my turn versus does it just completely shut down my opponent and doesn't hurt me at all? If you're not playing a light or dark monster deck, Light Imprisoning Mirror and Shadow Imprisoning Mirror don't hurt you, so it's smart to put these in the side deck. Versus Chaos Trap Hole, this is a better option in some cases than this, simply because it doesn't hurt you. Yes, you have to pay 2,000 life points, but that's usually better than not being able to play Yu-Gi-Oh! If you are a Burning Abyss player, you're not going to play Shadow Imprisoning Mirror. You're going to be playing Light Imprisoning and Chaos Trap Hole, just because you don't want, one, you don't like light effects, specifically Tellarknight effects. You guys know what card I'm talking about. Light Imprisoning Mirror, you want their effects to be negated, but Chaos Trap Hole serves the purpose of negating Dark type monsters effect. Chaos Trap Hole is also good against decks that have a wide variety of attributes, such as Shaddolls. They have everything under the sun in terms of their fusion monsters, but they typically go for Construct, which is a light monster, and they also have a ton of dark monsters in their regular Shaddoll lineup. So Chaos Trap Hole is very useful against them. Again, it depends on the matchup and really what you're looking for. Now, I'm going to quickly go over what you definitely shouldn't put in your side deck. First one is draw power. If you watch the video, the deck building video, the 37 card deck, I talked about how cards such as Upstart Goblin and Chicken Game, or Chicken Race, whichever the hell one you want to call it doesn't really matter. It's the same card. How these cards make it more likely that you'll get to the card you need. A great example that really utilizes draw power is Ignites. Their deck is all about being able to draw quickly, search quickly, and if they can't do that quickly, the deck shuts down. You should never put these cards in the side deck, because they don't do anything to necessarily improve your game state. They don't improve your game state over your opponent. And what I mean by that is, yes, they get you to your combo pieces faster, but if you're in a poor matchup, Chicken Game and Upstart Goblin aren't really going to benefit you, other than the fact that you get to your cards faster than usual. Yes, that can be helpful, but really you want something that can search much, much better than this. Again, just drawing cards is random. And this doesn't improve your game state on game 2, just because you need different cards that can really defeat your opponent. If I was playing a Chicken Game just for draw power, but I wanted to see, for example, if I'm playing Shaddolls and I want to see Chaos Trap Hole, but I don't want to see another card such as Mistake, for some odd reason, if I were to side that in, I would side out the Chicken Games if I remain decking them and throw in the Chaos Trap Holes, just so I could see the Chaos Trap Holes as soon as humanly possible, so I can shut down my opponent. The next type of card, I should say the next type of card you should not put in your side deck is archetype based cards. And what I mean that is whatever archetype you're playing, the monster lineup or the spell lineup that are specifically designated for those cards should not be taken out or put into the deck. Do not change the way you play the deck between game 1 and game 2. It does nothing to really benefit you. It can confuse your opponent for about 2 seconds, and then they realize, oh, it's just a slightly different way that they're playing the deck. I don't really need to do anything different other than what I've been doing in order to defeat them, or I cited in the correct cards to beat them anyway, so it doesn't matter. If you're playing Cosmos and you need more good witches, find room for good witches. It's not like it's ridiculous. Cosmo Farm Girl, I just put this on here as an example. You should be playing 3 of Farm Girl if you're playing Cosmos anyway, but you shouldn't be putting them in just because they don't improve your game state. Yes, it's possible that they could be there are very few examples that could actually do that. The one that's coming to my mind right now is Kawaki Mairu. They do have a lot of defense against light and dark monsters, specifically Kawaki Mairu Power Hand, who specifically targets light or dark monsters in his effect. If you don't know what his effect is, look it up. I don't know it off the top of my head, but that is a definite card. That is a decent card to have in the side deck because it's not necessarily it's not so much as it improves your it's not so much as it is solely focused on Kawaki Mairu, but it improves your game state depending on the matchup that you have. So if you're just siding in cards that wouldn't really change your deck in any way, or if it's still revolving around the same plays, don't do that. It doesn't benefit you in any way. It just changes it slightly. The next thing you shouldn't really put in the deck is limited cards, and this is a side note. This is put an asterisk on there, and that limits up to floodgates, such as Vanity's Emptiness, Macrocosmos, stuff like that. Raigeki, Bottomless Trap Hole. If you're not playing them in the main deck, don't side them. Clearly, if you're not going to be able to find the room in the main deck, and you feel like that you're going to need it, make room for it. Raigeki and Bottomless are just 2 examples, but typically if it's a one-off card, it's ridiculously good, especially if it's generic like Bottomless or Raigeki, or even cards like Solemn Warning, or cards cannot come to my mind right now, or Compulse. They're generic. They can be splashed into any deck. It doesn't matter. If you have the room for it, great, throw it in. If you don't have the room for it, don't put it in your deck. Of course, as always, there are exceptions. Torrential Tribute is an exception. That depends on your matchup. That depends on your deck. Yang Zings would main Torrential Tribute, but other decks such as Pendulums any Pendulum deck would side it because it doesn't necessarily help them in the main deck. They don't necessarily want to see that. However, depending on their matchup, Torrential Tribute can actually be very, very beneficial to them. So it depends on the matchup, but in general, I personally try to stay away from keeping one-offs in the side deck. The last type of card isn't really a type of card, it's another group. It's semi-limited cards. Summoner Monk. If you are playing Summoner Monk, play both Summoner Monk in the main deck. There should be or if you only need one, play one. Don't side one. It doesn't help you. Cards that are limited, Dragoons, Sea Dragoons, that for Mermails, they main both of those because it's a searcher, 1, and 2, it's a good card for the deck. They don't put one in the main deck and put one in the side deck. No, they want to have the best ability. Semi-limited cards are great in pairs because they work well. Summoner Monk is here because Summoner Monk is an example where even if he was at 3, most people will only play him at 2 just because of room reasons, because he is generic. And 2, he's still a good card, but he does neg your hand. And that's not always a risk you want to take. But at the same, that's neither here nor there. That's not what we're here to talk about. But Summoner Monk, as well as any other ones. Dark Hole. Dark Hole is another great example. Play 1 or 2. It depends on your deck, and it depends on your not your matchup, and it depends on the meta. But Dark Hole, you're playing 1, 2, 1, or none in the main deck. That's got to be how it is. It's how it is with semi-limiteds. You typically don't side them out. Like, you'll probably want to side them out against certain matchups. Like, if you're playing a Dark Hole against Yang Zing, oh boy, you are screwed. But, like, Dark Hole, you need to... Cards like Dark Hole and Summoner Monk, you need to be wary in terms of room reasons, in terms of intelligently putting them in your deck, and not really worrying about, oh, okay, like, this deck is playing a ton of, like, if Yang Zings ever became completely meta for some weird reasons, Dark Hole would be a sided card just because it's not, it wouldn't be good against Yang Zings. You don't want to main it against Yang Zings. And that's just an example. I don't know why I keep coming up with Yang Zings, but they're just an easy deck to pick on just because it's like it's just an easy deck to pick on. So anyway, moving on to the next topic. Test versus play. When you're testing a deck, you're not testing the side deck necessarily. That comes second. What you're doing is testing the main deck. There is an order to how you do things. Yes, you can do it all at once, but typically you want to make sure the main deck is as powerful and works as well as it can no matter what. And the side deck allows you to switch around cards when you're testing, whether it's against your friends in AI or it's on dueling network. If you're just testing a deck, don't worry about the meta. Don't worry about matchups. Just put cards in so you can really see what is going to work with the deck. The second stage after that is, okay, now you start working a side deck once you are comfortable with the deck, the main deck that you have. Yes, you might still have to alter it in the future. That just comes with the game. But at that point, start building the side deck in terms of meta once you have your main deck figured out. Your side deck should be determined by your main deck and not the reverse. That is the biggest thing you should take away from here. Do not determine your main deck by your side deck. Don't ever do that. That's stupid. It should be obvious. Don't ever do it. So, if you guys have any other comments, this is just a quick video I tried to put together. I will be going over some of these other cards in future videos, such as Summoner Monk here. So check back for that. But as always, guys, like, comment, and subscribe. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, guys, have a nice day.